that had an average GCE CSE pass rate of one measly fucking result per 2.5 pupils gone. Closed the year I left, replaced by Barratt Homes. Rainhill Psychiatric Hospital gone, replaced by Barratt Homes. Houses presumably not filled with the thousands of former inmates. No care for them in this community. The off-licence where I used to buy Special Brew and Thunderbird when I was a teenager, still there, but now with cashiers stuck behind thick, bulletproof plexiglass. The alleyway where I was beaten nearly blind when I was 14 by a gang of lads from only 3 miles down the road, still there. And then, just as we're nearing my parents' home, Maria spotted St James's Methodist Church. She said, "Oh, isn't that the church you and Stu Green were arrested on top of when you were eating chips that time?" I tap an imaginary watch on my wrist. "Is that the time? We really should be getting a move on. Dad's going to be wondering where we are. I'm starving. Are you hungry? I'm really hungry. Do you know what I fancy for me lunch? I fancy some cheese on toast." And my mum said, "Hey, you did what?" Cheers.
Can we do that?
Yeah, sure. I wish I could tell you I was going to read you some dead funny stuff out, but I'm not. It's really fucking miserable. We'll do one, and like, if you're still here and don't look really angry with us, we might do another one as well. Then we'll be out of your hair, and it'll be time for some rock music. Do we do the spark last thing? Yeah, man. I want to say thanks very much to my dear friend, driver, sponsor, and collaborator, Chettle from Arabrot. Funny how you can pick up ideas without even noticing it and have them stay with you for the longest of times. In 1977, during Queen Elizabeth II Silver Jubilee celebrations when I was 6 years old, I saw the Red Arrows performing aerobatics. As they flew overhead in formation, the fallen map planes left vapor trails behind them in red, white and blue. I was very taken with the coloured smoke, how it left very well-defined patterns in the sky. Later that day, I imagined I was a plane. I ran with my arms outstretched and my hands leaving vapor trails behind me, running down the road. At some point after that, I started imagining that my individual fingers left coloured jet trails behind them as I ran along. Without noticing it, it became something I would think about all the time. I imagined the trails I'd leave behind me on the way to the school or the shops, and then later down motorways en route to family caravan holidays in North Wales, Devon or Yorkshire. In my mind, the smoke trails never dissipated, and I imagined that I could see dense, three-dimensional highways of colour at waist height down roads I used frequently, becoming thicker and more tangible with each repeat journey. I thought, what if the earth disappears altogether? How many caravan holidays would I have to take to leave some kind of trace of the British Isles sketched out in red, white and blue? Could I leave some kind of real trace behind me? At some point, probably in 1982, after joining secondary school and reading Cosmos by Carl Sagan, the imaginary smoke trail that I was leaving behind me suddenly took on a dramatic new form. For reasons I can no longer remember, I decided that the vapour stayed put in real universal terms, marking out exactly where I'd been in the bigger scheme of things. I figured that even if I took the route to school and back every single day, the pattern I was creating was not just a loop, but one of much deeper three-dimensional complexity. And this was because of the rotation of the Earth, the movement of the Earth around the Sun, and the movement of the solar system inside the Milky Way. I would wonder what kind of weird, but presumably more or less geometrical pattern I was leaving. Probably when I started drinking, I thought of this less and less. But when I did, I would spread my fingers if no one was looking and imagine blue, red and white trails coming from my hands, spiralling up into the sky behind me and then away to God knows where. Even though I thought of it less and less as I grew up, when bored on long journeys, I would still try and work out what frequent trips up and down the M62 were doing to my interstellar trace. Now recently I realised that if I wanted to know what pattern I'd made in my own infinitesimally small bit of reality, I would have to factor in how the Milky Way itself was moving inside the entire universe. But without designating a relative observation point, it simply has no meaning. One's path through true space depends entirely on the frame of reference, the state of motion in which the observations are taken. It's not entirely arbitrary in that some possible frames of reference which use the position of the stars or the centre of our galaxy as an observation point are kind of natural, but others are frankly perverse. I'd hoped I was leaving some kind of beautiful three-dimensional pattern spiralling out into the void, carving out at least some kind of notional pattern behind me. But it turns out, according to one frame of reference where there is no fixed universal observation point, I'm not even fucking moving. I'm simply stuck here. I'm simply inertia in boundless nothingness. When I was younger, my mate Steve would say to me, "Have some of this, John lad, it'll put you in a fucking void." And it was always impossible to say no.